2:13 a.m. Ethan Cole woke to violent vibration rattling across his wooden nightstand. Rain hammered against the apartment windows. Thunder rolled over London. The room was dark except for the pale glow of his phone screen. Half asleep, Ethan reached for it, then froze. Caller ID Ethan Cole, his own number. Every digit matched. Ethan stared at the screen in confusion. His phone was already in his hand. So who was calling? The vibration stopped. Silence. Then instantly, the phone rang again. Louder this time. Aggressive. Ethan swallowed hard and answered carefully. Hello, only static answered. Soft crackling, like broken wires underwater. Then a voice whispered, Don't open the door. Ethan's body went cold. The voice sounded exactly like him. Not similar, exact. Same tone, same breathing, same pauses. Ethan stood slowly from the bed. What is this? The voice ignored the question. You have less than a minute. A loud burst of static screamed through the speaker. Then the call disconnected. Silence filled the apartment again. Ethan stared at the screen. Call duration. 7 outside, the storm grew louder. Then, 3 heavy knocks echoed downstairs. Thud, thud, thud. Ethan froze instantly. Nobody visited him this late. Another vibration. Same caller. Ethan Cole. He answered immediately. The voice sounded panicked now. Listen carefully. Ethan backed away from the hallway. If he sees your face, it's over. A slow shadow appeared beneath Ethan's apartment door. Somebody was standing outside, completely still. Ethan whispered, Who's there? The caller answered softly. Don't let him hear your real voice. Then the knocking started again, this time directly outside the apartment. The knocking continued. Slow, precise, almost patient. Ethan stepped backward across the apartment, unable to take his eyes off the door. Then his phone vibrated again. Same caller, Ethan Cole. He answered instantly. Who are you? Static crackled through the speaker. Then, you need to leave the hallway. The voice sounded terrified now. Real fear. Ethan lowered his voice. How do you know what's happening? No answer. Only breathing. Then the caller whispered, He's listening. A scratching sound dragged slowly across the outside of the apartment door. Metal against wood. Ethan grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. His hands trembled. What does he want? Silence. Then, you. The apartment lights flickered violently. The scratching stopped instantly. Then a soft creaking sound echoed from inside the apartment, not outside, inside. Ethan turned slowly toward the bedroom hallway. Darkness. Nothing else. His phone vibrated again. Another incoming call. But this time, the second phone in the apartment started ringing too. Ethan froze. The sound came from inside his bedroom closet. He moved carefully through the hallway. The ringing continued. Louder with every step. The closet door stood slightly open. Ethan slowly pulled it wider. A phone rested inside on a pile of old storage boxes. Same model, same wallpaper, same crack across the screen. Identical to his own. Caller ID Ethan Cole. Ethan stared in disbelief. Then the hidden phone stopped ringing. One notification appeared. One new VoIP email. Sieve. 8 years old. Ethan pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a voice spoke. Older, exhausted, broken, but unmistakably Ethan's voice. If you're hearing this, it already found you. Ethan stopped breathing. The voicemail continued. Do not trust the voices. A loud creak echoed from the apartment hallway. Heavy footsteps. Slowly moving closer. The older voice spoke faster now. It learns people through fear. Another footstep. Closer. Ethan stared toward the bedroom entrance. Darkness filled the hallway. Then the voicemail whispered. And once it learns your voice, silence. A shadow moved across the hallway wall outside the room. It replaces you. The voicemail ended abruptly. Complete silence returned. Then Ethan noticed something horrifying. The hidden phone inside the closet had changed screens. Live camera footage appeared, showing Ethan standing inside the bedroom, recorded from somewhere above him. Ethan slowly looked upward and saw a small black camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling. Then a figure moved behind him in the camera feed, standing silently inside the bedroom doorway, an older version of Ethan, watching him. Ethan spun around instantly. The bedroom doorway was empty. Nobody there. His breathing became uneven. Slowly, he looked back at the hidden phone. The older version of himself was still visible on the screen, standing motionless behind him, watching. Then the figure smiled. The camera feed glitched violently. Static swallowed the image. When it returned, the older Ethan was closer, almost directly behind him now. Ethan dropped the phone and stumbled backward. The apartment lights flickered rapidly overhead. Then every electronic device activated at once. The television turned on by itself. The microwave beeped. His laptop screen flashed awake. Static filled every speaker in the apartment. Ethan backed toward the hallway carefully. The TV image changed suddenly. Security footage appeared on the screen. Live footage of his apartment building hallway. Timestamp 2:19 a.m. The corridor outside his apartment looked empty. Then a tall figure slowly stepped into view at the far end. Its movements looked wrong, broken, like missing frames in a corrupted video. The figure stopped outside Ethan's apartment door, then lifted its face toward the hallway camera, its features blurred unnaturally, not hidden, distorted, like reality itself couldn't process what it was seeing. Ethan's phone vibrated again. He answered instantly. The caller whispered, "Don't let it hear your fear." The apartment hallway suddenly changed. The lights outside shifted dark red. The walls looked longer now, stretched unnaturally deep into darkness. Ethan whispered, "What is happening?" The voice answered softly, "It's getting closer." Then another voice echoed from the hallway. "Ethan." His mother's voice, perfectly identical. Ethan froze instantly. No, impossible. His mother died 11 years ago. The voice came again, closer this time. "Please open the door." Tears filled Ethan's eyes. The voice sounded completely real. Then another voice followed, his younger sister, crying softly. "Help me!" Ethan covered his mouth. The caller spoke urgently now. "It's Study's memory first." A loud bang slammed against the apartment door. The TV screen glitched violently again. New footage appeared, future footage. Ethan standing inside the apartment covered in blood, looking directly into the camera, terrified. Future Ethan whispered, "If you see people outside." Static interrupted the image, then returned. Future Ethan was suddenly closer to the camera. "Don't look at their faces." The footage cut. The apartment went silent. Then, a phone started ringing outside. Another answered somewhere downstairs. Then another, and another. Dozens of phones ringing through the building simultaneously. Ethan slowly approached the apartment window. Rain crashed against the glass outside. He looked down toward the street below, and his blood froze. People stood motionless across the road, dozens of them, men, women, children, all holding glowing phones beside their faces, all staring directly up at Ethan's apartment. Then every phone screen lit up together. Incoming call. Ethan Cole. The people below never moved. They only stared upward. Phones glowing against their faces in the rain. Then every device began ringing simultaneously. The sound echoed through the empty street like an alarm. Ethan stepped away from the window in panic. His own phone vibrated again. "Ethan Cole," he answered immediately. "You need to leave now," the caller whispered. The apartment door suddenly shook violently. Bang! Bang! Wood splintered near the lock. The caller's breathing became unstable. "He found you faster this time." Ethan grabbed his jacket and ran toward the fire escape window. Another impact slammed against the apartment door. The hinges bent inward. Then a voice echoed from the hallway outside. Ethan's own voice, calm, smiling. "You can stop running now." Ethan climbed through the window into the freezing storm. Rain soaked him instantly. The fire escape rattled beneath his weight as he rushed downward. Below him, the people in the street slowly lifted their heads together, watching, waiting. Their phones kept ringing. None of them blinked. Ethan hit the alley ground and sprinted into the city. London felt wrong. Traffic lights flickered randomly. Electronic billboards flashed static. Store screens activated by themselves as he passed. And everywhere, phones ringing. Inside parked cars. Inside apartments. Inside empty buses. The city sounded infected. Ethan stopped beneath a street lamp, breathing hard. Then his phone buzzed again. A text message appeared. Blackthorn Station. Ethan frowned instantly. Blackthorn Station. An abandoned underground station closed since 1987 after a massive fire. Another message appeared. Go below platform 4. Thunder exploded overhead. Ethan looked around the empty street. Nobody moved anymore. The people holding phones had vanished, but their ringing still echoed faintly through the city. Ethan ran. Rain blurred the streets as he moved through narrow alleys and empty intersections. Finally, he saw the station entrance. Blackthorn Station. Rust-covered gates blocked the underground stairway. Police warning signs hung from chains. But the gate stood slightly open, like someone had been waiting for him. Ethan stepped inside carefully. The station descended deep underground into darkness. Water dripped from old pipes. Dust covered the walls. The deeper he walked, the weaker his phone signal became. One bar, then none. For the first time all night, silence. No calls, no ringing. Ethan exhaled shakily. Then a flashlight beam suddenly hit his face. A voice echoed through the darkness. "You shouldn't be here." An older man slowly stepped onto the abandoned platform below. Grey beard, dark coat, tired eyes, and in his hand, an old rotary telephone receiver. The man stared at Ethan in horror. then whispered, "Oh God!" A pause. It found another one. The old man kept the flashlight aimed directly at Ethan, not threatening, careful, like he was checking whether Ethan was still himself. Ethan stepped slowly onto the abandoned platform. "Who are you?" The man glanced nervously toward the dark tunnels, then answered quietly, "Arthur." A distant metallic sound echoed somewhere beneath the station. Heavy, slow, moving underground. Arthur tightened his grip on the rotary receiver. "Turn your phone off." Ethan frowned. "There's no signal. Turn it off anyway." Something in Arthur's voice made Ethan obey instantly. The moment the phone powered down, the station lights flickered softly overhead, as if the building itself relaxed. Arthur lowered the flashlight slightly. "Good." Ethan looked around the station. Every clock showed the exact same time, 2:13 a.m. His stomach tightened. Arthur noticed. "It resets after contact." "What resets?" Arthur hesitated. Then, the loop. A phone rang somewhere deep underground, single tone, echoing endlessly through the tunnels. Arthur looked terrified. "We need to move." He led Ethan toward a rusted maintenance door beneath platform 4. The deeper they descended, the warmer the air became. Not natural warmth, electronic heat. Thousands of wires covered the walls underground, all feeding deeper below the station. Ethan noticed words scratched into the concrete beside the staircase. "Don't answer, it remembers. We are still here." A deep, metallic groan echoed below them. Arthur whispered, "We thought it was just a signal." The staircase ended at a massive steel blast door. Arthur inserted a rusted key. The lock opened with a heavy metallic click, then the door slowly moved inward. Ethan forgot how to breathe. The signal room stretched endlessly underground. Miles of machinery, towering communication towers, endless cables hanging from the ceiling like roots, and everywhere, phones. Thousands of ringing phones glowing in darkness. Old phones. Modern phones. Phones from every decade. At the center of the chamber sat hundreds of people in metal chairs, motionless, phones pressed against their ears, eyes empty. Some looked decades old. Others looked recent, still alive, barely breathing, Arthur whispered. The connected, massive screens hung above the chamber displaying live surveillance footage from across London. Apartments, subways, offices, streets, every person using a phone watched constantly. Ethan stepped backward slowly. "This can't be real." Arthur's face darkened. In 1987, Blackthorn Research discovered a frequency hidden inside global telephone networks. The ringing throughout the chamber grew louder. We answered it. Ethan looked toward the connected people. "What happened to them?" Arthur whispered. The signal answered back. The lights throughout the signal room suddenly dimmed blood red. Every phone stopped ringing at once. Complete silence. Then all the giant screens flickered together. Static rolled across them violently. A figure slowly appeared on every monitor. A man sitting in darkness holding an old telephone receiver. Ethan's breathing stopped. The man looked exactly like him. Older, colder, smiling faintly. The figure leaned toward the screen, then whispered calmly, "Hello, Ethan." A pause. "Or should I call you Victor?" The signal room fell completely silent. Every screen displayed the same face. Ethan's face, older, emotionless, watching him calmly from the monitors above. Arthur stepped backward slowly. Fear spread across his face. "No." The man on the screen smiled faintly. "You always were emotional, Arthur." Ethan stared upward, unable to speak. The older version of himself leaned closer toward the camera. "You've spent your whole life searching for answers." A pause. "But you were never meant to remember." The screens flickered violently. Old black and white footage appeared behind him. Scientists moving through Blackthorn Station in 1987. Massive communication machines activating underground. Arthur whispered weakly, "Oh God!" Then Ethan saw him. Dr. Victor Hale, standing beside the machines, identical to Ethan. Same face, same eyes, same scar near the eyebrow. The older man on the screen spoke calmly. "Victor Hale wasn't your father." A pause. "He was you." Ethan's heartbeat stopped. "No." Arthur shut his eyes painfully. The older Ethan continued, "The signal does not copy consciousness." The giant screens flashed with brain scans and transmission diagrams. It transfers it. Images appeared rapidly across the monitors. Different men, different lives, different decades, all carrying Ethan's face. Every time my body failed. Another image appeared. A burned laboratory beneath Blackthorn Station. I moved into another one. Ethan staggered backward. Memories suddenly slammed into his mind. A laboratory, rotating signal towers. The smell of smoke and burning wires. People screaming underground. Ethan grabbed his head in pain. Arthur whispered, "It's merging already." The older Ethan smiled. "You were never Ethan Cole." The connected people sitting throughout the chamber slowly lifted their heads together. Phones still pressed against their ears. You were only the latest reconstruction. Ethan's breathing became unstable. The memories grew stronger. Victor Hale writing equations across glass walls, speaking about preserving human consciousness inside communication frequencies. Then fire, explosion, darkness. The older Ethan continued calmly. The operator was never your enemy. Ethan looked upward slowly. What is it? The older Ethan smiled faintly. The bridge. The screen suddenly changed again. And Ethan finally understood. The creature, the voices, the replacements. It wasn't killing people randomly. It was transferring minds through signal pathways. The missing people were failed transfers. Arthur shouted angrily. You murdered them! The older Ethan's expression darkened slightly. No. A pause. I preserved them. The lights throughout the signal room shifted deep red. Machines awakened underground. The connected people slowly stood together in perfect synchronization. The older Ethan looked directly into the camera. You answered the first call because part of you recognized me. The ringing started again. Thousands of phones activating simultaneously. And now, the older Ethan smiled wider. I want my body back. The connected people began walking forward together. Slow, silent. Phones pressed tightly against their ears. Thousands of ringing tones merged into one deafening wall of static. Arthur grabbed Ethan's arm hard. We have to destroy the core. Ethan stared at the approaching figures. Men, women, children. All empty-eyed, all controlled by the signal. The older Ethan watched calmly from every screen above them. You still think this is about survival? The connected people took another synchronized step. Boom! The entire chamber shook. Arthur pointed toward a massive rotating machine at the center of the signal room. Thick cables fed into it from every wall underground. The core relay. Sparks flickered across its surface. Arthur pulled a rusted revolver from inside his coat. If that machine dies... A pause, the signal collapses. Ethan looked around the chamber. The connected victims still looked alive. Barely. What happens to them? Arthur hesitated, then quietly. They die with it. The older Ethan smiled from the screens. Now you understand. The lights flickered violently. Ethan's memories became unstable again. Victor Hale standing inside the original laboratory, watching the first transmission activate. Hearing a voice answer from inside the signal, Arthur raised the revolver toward the core machine. We don't have time. The connected people suddenly stopped moving. Then together, they spoke using Ethan's voice. You belong with us. The chamber lights exploded red. The walls vibrated. Phones throughout the room began ringing aggressively. Arthur shouted, Choose! Ethan stared at the machine. Destroy it and kill everyone connected. Leave it. And the operator spreads forever. His phone vibrated inside his pocket. One final incoming call. Call ID. Victor Hal. Arthur looked horrified. Don't answer it. The phone kept vibrating harder, almost violently. The older Ethan appeared again across every monitor. His face glitched constantly now, breaking apart. You can end death tonight. The connected victims slowly turned toward Ethan together, watching him, waiting. The older Ethan whispered, You already know what loneliness feels like. The lights dimmed lower. You know what fear feels like. The phone vibrated harder. But immortality, a faint smile spread across his face, feels like freedom. Arthur cocked the revolver. Ethan! The core machine cracked loudly. Black liquid leaked through its cables. The entire signal room screamed with electronic static. Then the connected victims suddenly woke up. Some collapsed, crying. Others looked around in confusion. A woman whispered, Where am I? A teenage boy started screaming. The system was failing. Arthur raised the gun toward the machine again. This is our only chance. Ethan stared at the terrified survivors surrounding him. Then at the incoming call still vibrating in his hand. Victor Hale calling, waiting. The signal room trembled violently beneath them, and somewhere deep below the chamber, something enormous began moving in the darkness. The entire signal room shook violently. Steel cables snapped overhead. Sparks rained across the chamber. The connected victims screamed as systems failed around them. Arthur aimed the revolver at the core machine. Move! But Ethan couldn't. Victor Hale's call still vibrated in his hand. The screen glowed brighter with every second. Caller ID, Victor Hale. Then the call answered itself. Static filled the chamber instantly. And Victor's voice whispered directly into Ethan's ear. You already know the truth. The lights throughout the signal room died. Complete darkness swallowed the underground facility. Only phone screens remained glowing across the chamber, hundreds of tiny lights floating in darkness. Victor's voice continued calmly. The signal cannot be destroyed. The giant machine at the center of the room pulsed slowly like a living heart. It spreads through connection. Around Ethan, phones activated by themselves. Screens glowing, notifications appearing endlessly. Calls, messages, voices. Victor whispered, "As long as people answer, a pause, it survives." Arthur fired. The bullet struck the core machine. A deafening shockwave exploded through the signal room. Every phone screen shattered simultaneously. The connected victims collapsed instantly. The giant machine cracked open. Black liquid poured across the floor beneath it. And then, the screaming started, not from the people, from inside the walls. Thousands of voices crying out together through the underground cables. The operator was breaking apart. Victor's voice distorted violently through Ethan's phone. "You're making the same mistake again. Again." That word hit Ethan instantly. Again. More memories flooded his mind. Victor Hale inside the original laboratory. The first experiment. The first transmission. The first collapse. This had happened before. Arthur grabbed Ethan violently. "We have to go!" The chamber ceiling collapsed behind them. Massive pieces of concrete crashed into the machinery. Fire erupted through the underground facility. The signal room was dying. Victor's voice whispered one final time, "You can never silence a signal." Then the call disconnected. The core machine exploded. White light consumed the chamber instantly. 3 weeks later, Berlin, Germany. 2:13 a.m. A woman named Elisa Weber woke to her phone vibrating beside her bed. Rain tapped softly against her apartment window. Half asleep, she reached for the phone, then frowned. Caller ID. "Elisa Weber, her own number." "Confused," she answered carefully. Static crackled softly through the speaker. Then a terrified voice whispered, "Don't answer the door." A slow shadow appeared beneath her apartment entrance, and someone knocked. Thud, thud.